Hello, my name is Otis, and I am making this video to document and to share an incredible experience that I had recently flying this airplane and a couple of others for 2 full weeks of pretty intensive aerobatic dual instruction. And it was a life-changing experience for me as a pilot, and so I hope those watching will enjoy it. And if you're a pilot like me who's been flying for many years or many decades, without having delved too deeply into the world of aerobatics, maybe it will provide a little inspiration to give it a try. I was not actually looking for aerobatic instruction, but I happened upon this YouTube video that really got me thinking. The guy flying the airplane, Jared Sebesta, is chief instructor and co-owner of Gambit Aviation located in Aurora, Illinois. In this video, he was performing complex tumbling maneuvers like Lomcevox while simultaneously inviting viewers to come learn them in this and other aircraft at Gambit. All this without breaking stride in a relaxed conversational tone. I was pretty impressed and started wondering if this might be for me. And by the way, I would encourage anyone interested to look at this video and several others that Gambit Aviation have published on YouTube, and you'll get a good look at the entire fleet of aircraft that they offer instruction in. I should mention that I was not a complete neophyte to unusual attitudes. About 7 years ago, I started flying this RV-7A experimental aircraft, which itself is a very nimble aerobat capable of many positive G maneuvers and a real delight to fly. So early on, I did obtain a little bit of instruction and have been doing the gentleman maneuvers, loops and aileron rolls and accelerated stalls and things most aircraft are capable of. But I felt like it was time to expand my horizons. I do admit to a week or so of hand-wringing over the decision to go. Aurora is 2,000 miles from my home on the West Coast, so that meant a 20-hour round trip in my RV. And I had no experience with inverted flight, negative Gs, or even positive Gs above about 3.5. So I had no way of knowing if I'd be able to handle those or the intense gyrations that are associated with flying airplanes like these. In spite of those concerns, I decided to take my own gambit and allocate 2 weeks to this trip and be prepared to return early if things didn't work out. Sure glad I did. I made the flight. My airplane's very well equipped for cross-country flight, as you can see. I routinely fly IFR, so there were no particular challenges there. And I had some monster tailwinds, so the trip there was pretty painless. And as you can see, I arrived successfully. There's my airplane parked behind the extra. From day one, it was a series of very positive surprises, all of which reinforced the whole concept of going there, of diving much deeper into unusual attitudes than I had ever imagined myself doing, finding myself utterly unfazed by any aspect of it, no disorientation during the time I was there, no adverse physiological responses to any of the maneuvers, and some of them, as you will see later in this video, were quite extreme. So this is the front cockpit of the Extra 330LX, and it's located right on top of the wing. And as you can see, it's essentially bereft of instrumentation. You've got throttle, stick, rudders, and a couple of instruments, and that's it. However, this is the primary training location for this airplane, and it's where I actually expected to spend the entire 2 weeks. By contrast, this is the rear cockpit, obviously the main office of this airplane, and I really had no expectation or aspiration to fly in this seat at all. So imagine my surprise when I was ready to climb into the front seat and asking how I could get on the wing without damaging it. And Jared pointed at this step down below the rear seat and said, just use that, you're going to be in the back seat. And so I was dumbfounded, but he convinced me quickly that that's the place you want to be, and he was right. And so in no time, there I was in control of the airplane. He's taking pictures, I'm flying the airplane, we're upside down. This is like on the first day, and everything feels really good at this point. As you can see, the hooker harnesses on this airplane really mean business. The strap, upper strap on the waist actually has ratchets that you can ratchet down and really marry yourself to the airplane, which gives great comfort when you're inverted pulling some G's. Actually, the very active getting in the airplane, getting strapped in and ready to roll takes considerable time. This video clip is sped up almost 10 times what it actually takes to get in the airplane and get it ready to start the engine. It's about a 5-minute process. So these things add up when you're trying to fly multiple times daily. So the forehead mounted camera I'm using here gives a good idea of the great perspective the rear seat offers a pilot. The wing really doesn't take up that much of your field of view and yet provides a great reference. So as we're rolling out here, notice when we start to accelerate, my hand going forward with this baseball bat sized throttle. It's very gratifying to bring the engine to life with that. Acceleration is rapid, and at about 70 to 80 knots, you can lift into ground effect and pause briefly. Once you're at 90 or above, you can peel off and head off to your destination. In this case, it's the aerobatic practice area, about a 5-minute flight away from the airport. Next up is a very brief clip of my first upright spin, a real thrill, followed by a more complex flat and accelerated upright spin with cockpit audio.
Alrighty. It's good. That's perfectly straight back. Nice crisp entry.
Yep. And now let it stabilize.
Yeah, right there is going to be fully developed.
Okay.
Power to flat.
Power. Just going to go like half throttle.
Yep.
And then I'm going to go off.
Aileron to flat. And then forward stick if you wanted to accelerate the flat spin.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yep. Man, that's cool.
Yep.
That is really cool. Woohoo! Okay.
Good. Power idle, ailerons neutral, rudder full opposite, aileron, elevator unload, and then back to the neutral feet.
Yeah, I'm waiting too long to unload the elevator.
This is a somewhat crude attempt at the slow roll, which is a very challenging but gratifying maneuver. You have to be really on the ball and bring in nearly full upwing rudder initially, transitioning into full rudder, and then as you go over on your back, out of the rudder into forward stick, significant forward stick, then transition to the other rudder and then level out. And it's a lot of fun. This is my very first inverted spin. Turned out to be a lot easier and a lot more fun than I expected it to be. And I ended up doing quite a bit of inverted work after this. After slowing to a near stall, you shove the stick full forward, and in this case, full right rudder, and it quickly develops into a pretty exciting inverted spin, fully developed here. And of course, you can do all the variations of flatness and acceleration inverted that you can upright. I did a lot of inverted work after this. It's a blast. I thought I invented this maneuver, but it actually turns out to be a split S combined with an Immelman. You slow down, flip over on the back, execute a loop from the top, and then bring it back up and do a half roll at the top for level flight. This airplane rolls so rapidly that I had to line up 3 copies of this clip in order to be able to say anything about it. It's a thrill. It's a real challenge to come out on the spot that you aim to. It takes a lot of practice, but wow. We'll close this little segment with a somewhat sloppy 3-point landing. You can see all that oscillation is me trying to be smooth on the controls. In the end, the airplane is really well behaved on the ground and a joy. These flights are actually fairly short. You've got 17 gallons in the acro tank, and you quickly learn that watching fuel is very important. So you may have a couple of gallons in the wing tanks to get you to and from the practice area. So you fly out, switch to the acro tank, tear up the sky for a while, carefully watching the fuel level at all times. And then at some point, you've got to head back because you're getting low on fuel. And Gives you a lot of opportunities for takeoffs and landings, though. Although the flights are short, they allocate a relaxed 2 full hours for each flight. So that includes the pre-fueling preparation of the airplane, getting in it, getting airborne, doing the flight itself. And then upon return, you open the cowl flap on top and put a fan underneath it so that your next flight won't be such a hot start. This is an ADS-B depiction of one of several flights dedicated to pattern work. We were extended out on the first 2 circuits, but then we were pretty much given the airport. And I think we did 10 in about a half hour here. These were wheel landings I was practicing. Note that we don't fly square patterns and we keep things pretty tight, and that is in the interest of being able to make the field in the event of an engine failure. These things have the glide ratio of a brick, and you've got to be thinking about that all the time. These landings, of course, are all on the runway. What you're seeing in this graphic is just the inherent inaccuracy of ADS-B. This next clip is the longest one in the video. It's the takeoff and full final pattern in that series you just saw, all the way to a full stop and even a little taxiing at the end. And it really illustrates energy management in the pattern with this airplane, always keeping in mind the glide ratio, which is so terrible that you really need to be thinking about it full time. You actually accelerate all the way to 150 knots, 160 knots in the downwind. And not far past the runway, you make the decision to start your turn to final. And you're using fairly steep bank angles, easing back on the throttle and letting some speed bleed off as you glide down over the threshold. So you want to make the transition from 150 knots to about 100 knots over the numbers. And it's a real challenge and a joy. I enjoyed it very much. You can see these pretty steep bank angles, using a circular approach rather than a square approach. And this one's nicely managed. Come over the numbers just where I want to be at about 100 knots, and get into the wheel landing attitude. So you can see the asphalt's flying by pretty quickly, even when you're touched down. There's the wheel landing, easing the tail wheel down, keeping it straight, letting energy dissipate, and a pretty long rollout, touching down at about 80 knots. So you've got quite a bit of energy, even when you're on the ground. And we're basically going to use light braking to make a turn onto an intersecting runway and then onto a taxiway. And I want to show you that as well, because the ground handling on this airplane is interesting. It's not particularly challenging, but you can't see anything straight ahead from the rear seat. So once I get off of the runways, there's the intersecting runway, and we're turning now onto the taxiway, paralleling the landing runway. And once we're on that, it's narrower, and I have to really start paying attention to what's going on. And you'll see that the strategy I worked out that was good for me was getting off to one side a little bit. You'll see the center line, and then making a little bit of a turn across the center line. Each time you make the turn, you have a chance to have a peek forward. So back in the air on another flight, a few more maneuvers. Here we've stabilized inverted, and I'm going to attempt a turn, a coordinated turn inverted, which turns out to be very, very challenging. It takes a lot of forward pressure. Just being inverted puts you at -1 Gs, so a 30-degree bank adds another 0.4 of a G negative, and you really feel that, and it takes a significant amount of forward stick in order to maintain this. So here are two separate views of the same maneuver of vertical tumble with the smoke turned on, which is kind of exciting. And this one's taken from Jared's iPhone. So it's a vertical tumble, so the airplane tumbles end over end, and then you recover on the down. This is the same exact maneuver, and you'll see the smoke come on here. I'm establishing a vertical line, putting in a little bit of left roll, and then full forward stick and full left rudder, and the airplane tumbles end over end in the smoke, as you can see. And the cool thing about these smoke maneuvers is that then you get to follow your smoke trail back down, which is very thrilling. Anyway, that's a lot of fun. So this is another upright spin. It's accelerated. So you see we get established in the spin, and once it's stabilized, notice the position of the controls in the back. You'll see the elevator go downward right there. And the effect of that is to point the nose down a little steeper, and it's sort of like a ice skater pulling in their arms and speeding up the rotation of a spin. And it's pretty thrilling. This is a maneuver of my own invention, which is basically doing a half loop and then leveling out at the top, inverted, and flying for a while. I'm calling it the vertical holding pattern. So imagine a IFR holding pattern laid on its side. Then you complete the loop. And then you just go back to the point of origin and hold for as long as the controllers have requested. Here I got to finally learn how to do a proper barrel roll. You pull up to a fairly steep angle, start your roll, and when you get inverted, you should be 90 degrees off the original course. And then as you bring it on around, you're pointed again in the original direction of travel. Very graceful maneuver.
Good. Implement.
North Towers Scout, 572 Juliet Alpha, hold
What's
short
next?
9, ready
Implement.
for departure.
Implement.
Yeah, we got plenty of speed. Hold short, runway 27 for landing traffic. Hold short, 27 landing traffic, 572 Juliet Alpha.
And do a slow roll.
Do a slow roll. Lousy, but
Not bad, still did it.
Here we see my final landing in the Extra 330, which I'm very proud of, even if it's sloppy. It was a wheel landing that I kind of botched at the beginning, and but I had the wherewithal to rescue it rather than turning it into a 3-point, and did a proper landing. And I think you'll see soon in this next section, which is the same landing exactly, the sort of expression of relief on my face when I finally bring things to a close.
15 Alpha, cross 8, monitor ground, extra zero X-ray. Appreciate the help, thank you. A little bit of brake, sir, we'll make 15.
Vector 0 Juliet Whiskey, left turn south approved, runway 27 clear for takeoff. Left turn south approved, 27 clear for takeoff, 0 Juliet Whiskey. Factory 0 Juliet Alpha.
Sigh of relief. And then a truly goofy expression, knowing that I had accomplished my task. So this photograph was taken just after that final flight in the Extra. And these are the 3 main airplanes I flew, 22 times the Extra, twice the Pitts you see in the background, and 3 times my own airplane with Jared or other instructors aboard. And you'll see some more clips yet to come of flight in those other 2 airplanes. So here's the real surprise. At the conclusion of this flight, we logged it, and Jared signed me off, safe and competent to act as pilot in command of the Extra 330LX type at this time. How about that? Actually, there was a 4th airplane shown there on the right, the Super Decathlon, which I did fly a couple of times to polish my wheel landings after having a little difficulty in them in the Extra. I should also mention 2 other instructors at Gambit I flew with. Jared's partner in the business, the very capable John Beck, who I did not get a picture of, but flew with twice in the Extra. And also Spencer Dewar, who was my instructor in the decathlon and is shown pictured here beside it. And I don't have any videos, but this is one still shot of me setting up for kind of a fun landing we did on a grass strip. So I really enjoyed that as well. one of my main goals on this flight was to finally spin my airplane, which I did in both directions. This is the first spin we did to the right with Jared in the right seat, me in the left seat. And it's followed by the same thing from inside the cockpit. Turned out to be kind of a non-event after all the spins I'd done.
Right there.
Good. Full left rudder. Unload the stick. There you go. Good.
Ah, hell, that was nothing.
Now, got traffic out that way.
So then there was this exciting little pit sitting over in the corner of the hangar a whole time I was there, and I was intrigued by it, a little frightened, the reputation of pits on the runway and so forth. But I decided I wanted to fly it, and I'm glad I did it twice. So in this next photo, you see both the pits and the extra side by side. They're both prepped to fly. And in the last 2 days, I flew the extra twice each day with the pits sandwiched in between. Even though the extra's a real lady with no bad habits, very predictable, and a delight to fly in every mode, the pits really shines when it comes to spinning. So this is an upright, fully accelerated spin in the pits. It's the only maneuver that actually left my head spinning. It was only for a few seconds after we stopped the spin, but this thing really winds up and goes. I think we did 10 turns on that. It was pretty thrilling. I think this next clip is the most sheer fun I had the whole time. As you can see, we start out inverted here, okay? And we're setting up for initiating a inverted spin. And we put in the controls to flatten it. Notice when that string comes back around, when that sight gauge, you see the yaw string there, that's the direction of our travel, which is virtually straight down. I've got another view of this spin. So in this next segment, we're looking through a camera that's mounted on the canopy pointing straight up. But remember, the airplane started out upside down, so it's pointing straight at the ground through the top of the canopy. The focus on that sort of square patch in the field there, and you'll see that we really get going on this. And notice that that's growing in size pretty rapidly. So I think this was a full 10 turns, and then upon recovery, we were down to about 3,500 feet, having started at 7. Now this is another attempt at an inverted turn, and actually a pretty successful one. This really highlights the fact that your face turns red, or my face turns red when I'm inverted. So I put in a bank, and you can see now the ground is kind of rotating underneath, and this is pretty well controlled. I actually got reasonably good at this by the time I left. This is my second to the last flight while there. So yeah. So if I look a little cocky in this photograph taken at the end of that flight, it's because I'd actually executed a pretty decent 3-point landing all by myself in a pit special. So another feather in the cap. And here are a few reasons to consider a return trip. All of these airplanes, the Pitts Model 12, the T6 Texan, and the L29 are all available for dual instruction. And it's pretty tempting. So anyway, I hope everyone enjoyed this video. And if you did, please give it whatever sort of thumbs up you can, and be much appreciated. And maybe I'll be back with something else in the future. Thank you.